And now on the Two Murrays, Strata Matters with Stephen Brell for the Strata Community Association, New South Wales, the peak body representing the strata industry.
Here he is, Stephen Brell in the studio with us. Very happy Sunday afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Murray.
And thanks for coming in on a lovely out.
No worries
suppose
at
you'd
all.
rather be anywhere else. You'd love to be at the beach,
Really?
having a glass of wine.
Oh, that'd be better.
Yep.
You don't drink.
What?
I've never seen you have a glass of wine.
I'd be happy to have a drink if I could get out of here.
And have a Coca-Cola.
I could have a Coca-Cola.
You
Yeah.
could indeed. Now, Stephen, busy week, no doubt.
Extremely busy week, yes.
You were just telling us off air about something I'm just scratching my head about. Bankruptcies and strata living. I mean, I can't get my head around it. Just to take us through baby steps for me, please. There was a conference this week that you attended.
There was, yeah. So the new New South Wales Strata Commissioner and Property Commissioner John Minns held a roundtable with various stakeholders, including owner groups, justice groups and strata managers to talk about bankruptcies in strata. So I was quite surprised to learn that in the federal court, owners corporations or body corporates chasing strata debts, so this is owners that haven't paid their strata levies,
Oh, I see. Okay.
make up about 10% of all bankruptcy applications around Australia. And that blows out to 18% in New South Wales. So, yes, the Commissioner John Minns brought us all together to try and have a chat and say, what are the alternatives for strata owners who may find themselves in trouble?
You can answer that question in a minute. Just take me through the mechanics of this. John and Jan, living in a strata environment, can't afford to pay a big levy that's been levied by the rest of the people living in there. And so what do they do?
Well, again, this is where for an owners corporation, they really only have one mechanism in order to pursue owners. So when you buy into a strata complex, all owners have an obligation to pay levies. Yep. And when owners fall into arrears with their levies, the owners corporation or body corporate can chase them for the debt. Now, most proceedings, debt recovery proceedings, end up with the owner paying the debt, and they may go onto a payment plan or something along those lines.
Sure.
Regrettably, however, on the odd occasion, when push comes to shove, an owners corporation has little other option other than to initiate bankruptcy proceedings against lot owners who do find themselves in trouble.
But you were saying that this debt rises to what, 18% in New South Wales?
Yeah, so 18% of all bankruptcy applications in New South Wales
one in five.
Are for owners corporation debt, which I was really, really surprised with, and hence the reason for the roundtable, which was to try and find alternative solutions.
So that roundtable was your colleagues in all other states?
Yep.
Are the rules and regulations in New South Wales the same as Victoria?
No, they're not.
No,
they're
of course
slightly
not.
different.
They never are.
Why not?
Yeah. This was an unintended consequence of something occurred back in 2015 when our strata laws changed. And what we need to do in New South Wales is at every annual general meeting of an owners corporation, we need to ask the owners how they want to deal with debt on levies.
Okay.
And there's literally sort of two choices. One, we will allow payment plans, or we will go debt recovery. Now, because it's a black and white solution, most owners corporations say, no, we don't want to opt for payment plans because they are costly and problematic, so we will go the debt recovery route. And these are some of the things that we spoke about with John during the week.
Does that then mean that property has to be sold?
Well, what it means is that the lever that the owners corporation pulls with an owner who goes into debt is debt recovery, as opposed to looking at alternatives like payment plans and that sort of thing. Right. Yeah.
So there can be a forced sale.
It can be a forced
imposed
sale
on the people who own the property to recover those.
Exactly right.
So what happens? Hypothetical. So there's a strata complex. One of the units is owned by a company, right? And somebody is living in that unit.
Yep.
And the company goes bankrupt.
Yep.
Is the individual that's living in that particular unit still liable to pay those fees, or have they got to recover it from the company that's gone bankrupt?
You've got to recover it from the company
that's gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
So why aren't you better off, if you're going to declare somebody bankrupt, aren't you better off to get a payment plan?
You are, absolutely. And this is what the roundtable was all about, is looking at alternatives. And what we found is that regrettably, like a lot of areas of the marketplace, there are some bad operators out there who are exploiting this particular area of the law, and forcing owners corporations, or encouraging owners corporations to go down this route. And that's what part of this discussion was all about. The good news out there, and which is something which I didn't know but did learn through this roundtable, is that there are two fairly good programs for owners, and this actually applies to any owner. You don't necessarily need to be in a strata situation. There is something called the National Debt Recovery Hotline, which offers free advice and free financial advice for people that may find themselves in debt. Yes. So that's something which can help. And there is a new program that started this year, which is called the Home Equity Access Scheme. Now, this is a program which is set up for older Australians and pensioners to actually access the equity in their home. And it's a government program. So this is not like going to a bank or a financial institution to access the equity in your debt.
Okay.
This is a financial program, or a government program, I should say, for older Australians that they can access their equity. So again, there are a couple of good alternatives out there for people to use.
Okay.
They can keep their heads above water.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
Yeah. 131873 is our telephone number. Stephen Brell can answer just about every darn question in the book. Greg's joining us, though, from Artarmon. This is very interesting. I'll just turn the screen around. Sorry, Stephen, because he's just talking. Hello, Greg. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Yeah.
What's your story here? Because this is very interesting. It ties in exactly with what Stephen was saying.
It is. That's why I'm calling in. I mean, Stephen would know all this, but we resolved something. There was a guy who owed 2 or 3 years' worth of levies.
How much was that worth?
And with the legals, I don't know, came to about 12 grand, I guess, with legals, because there were all the letters.
Right.
Escalating, degrees of shrillness.
Yes.
And he put his place on the market. And the new owner rang up to say, I've just purchased, I just want to know about, water rates or something unrelated. And I said, well, do you know about the fact that you're going to take on 12 grand's worth of debt? He said, oh, no. I said, well, you are. You'll have to pay that. So I gave him a suggestion. Whether he followed it through or not, I don't know. I said, go back to the owner and say, well, I'll buy that from you. X dollars minus 12,000.
There you go. And what happened?
Well, I don't know, but that's what, I rang the Strata Manager to check whether, that's how it worked. And he said, yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Right.
The new owner comes in and they pay the debt, and they should really just negotiate. And, it's a bit like when they get a building report and they say, oh, well, this is wrong and we've got white ants here and stuff, and we'll have it, say it's going to cost you X to fix it.
Yep.
Well, we'll take that off the price. Thanks.
So who owns the debt? Who's responsible for the debt? The owner or the actual building itself?
Greg, thank you very much too, by the way.
Yeah, no, the debt actually belongs to the lot.
It does belong to the lot.
It belongs to the lot. Yeah. So what?
No.
Usually, what occurs here in this situation
You're cracking jokes.
Yeah, no. It belongs to the lot, and the reason for that is so an owner can't absconder and just run away and not pay the debt.
But that's what they're doing.
Yeah, well, they are. But what occurs is when the property settles, and this is the reason why it is very important to use a conveyancer when you're buying a property or a lawyer, is that they will do all the checks and they will order what's called a Section 184 certificate, and that outlines what all the debts are on the lot. And again, they'll make an adjustment on settlement.
I guess that answers the question I'm thinking about. What obligation is there on an owner who is trying to sell an apartment, a flat, a unit, a lot, if you like? What obligation is on you if I'm buying your unit? Are you obliged to tell me there's outstanding levies that haven't been paid for 2 or 3 years?
This is conveyancing legislation, which is a little bit outside my area of expertise. But yes, you are required to make a whole bunch of disclosures when you are selling a property.
And if they're not made, the legal checks that you've just mentioned, they should pick them up on the way through.
100%.
Right,
yeah,
there you
they
go.
should. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
right.
Because imagine that. You've bought the place.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, here's $15,000 worth of debts.
Yeah, well, you
What?
want to whip your solicitor because they should have picked that up.
Oh, correct.
That's right. And this is the reason why I encourage everyone, when you buy a strata property, get a strata report, because it will also tell you what levies are coming up as well. So if there's any special levies and so forth in train.
All right. Okay, 131873 is the telephone number if you want to have a chat to Stephen. We're going to take a very short break. We're going to come back with a little bit of sport, and then we'll continue to take some more calls, all right? Do not go away. It's the Two Murrays.
This is Strata Matters for the Strata Community Association New South Wales, the peak body representing the strata industry.
How about this from Jason? This is very interesting indeed. Muzzers.
Yes.
And Stephen, strata cost is such a rip-off. They overcharge. My house, which is larger than my strata townhouse, is a quarter of the cost to insure. We'd be better off insuring our own townhouse and pay a fee for the yard townhouse maintenance. What do you actually get from stratas other than big quarterly bills?
You get a lot from Strata. I mean, Strata is one of those forms of housing where there is governance in place to make sure that owners' corporations are properly repairing and maintaining their property. You do generally find that on average, it is far more economical to own a strata property than what it is to own your own house outright, because when things go wrong, you are in a collective and you can band together and get things fixed.
Okay, beautiful. All right, 131873 is the telephone number. Let's get into some of these calls. Sarah has called through. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty well, thanks. What's your query for Stephen this afternoon?
Sure. First, thanks for your helpful and informative program. My question is in regards to Design and Building Practitioners Act. We all understand that the 2021 changes and enforcement of DBPA legislation for waterproofing projects was a much-needed response to widespread defects in new buildings. But we also know that waterproofing needs to be redone every 10 years or so. And with DBPA requirements, this is now costing 5 to 10 times more than normal. Also, the timeline has significantly increased. It used to be a month or two, but now it is about a year and a half or more. So 2 questions. How do you see this impacting everyone in the Strata community? And what are the chances these type of work gets exempted from DBPA legislation in near future? Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Again, as you rightly point out, the Design Building Practitioners Act is a new piece of legislation. It came in 2021, and it's part of the reforms that the New South Wales Building Commissioner, David Chandler, had brought in to restore confidence to the construction sector in New South Wales. To your point, remedial works in strata, when the legislation was first designed, no pun intended, no one knew that existing buildings were going to be caught up in it. We all thought that it was going to be for brand new strata schemes, but when the legislation was released, we actually found that it did apply to existing schemes as well. And what the purpose of the regulation is to ensure that owners' corporations are properly repairing and maintaining their property. So what would happen in the past was that owners would get quotes that often go for the cheapest quote to repair their property, particularly major works like it might be a structural element or waterproofing, as you mentioned. And what we were finding is that those repairs would only last for a short period of time, maybe 5 to 10 years.
On the cheap.
That's right. They were done on the cheap. Yep. Yeah. So what the intent of this legislation is to ensure that when properties are repaired, they are repaired for the long term. So not for 10 years, but for 20 or 25 years is how long a waterproofing job should actually last for. So that's what the intent of the legislation is. Now, to your second part of your question, as far as exempting properties from it or exempting works from it, there are some exemptions that are in the legislation at the moment. Again, what we are hoping for is that the limit, which at the moment is $5,000, if that was pushed up to $20,000, then a lot of the smaller remedial works wouldn't be caught up in it. So that's something which we are working along with the government with, again, bearing in mind that this is new legislation. So everyone is getting their heads around it. The lawyers are getting their heads around it. The engineers are getting their heads around it. And the builders are getting their heads around it to make sure that properties are properly maintained.
Beautiful. Who's going to supervise the integrity of these works? Because we've got this ridiculous situation in New South Wales where I could go out there and supervise a slab, tick off the slab that Muzz has built for his third townhouse.
That's
on his
right,
property.
and that's what the intent of this legislation is. So it's going to be largely self-regulating. However, the regulator, which is Safe Work, they will come out and do inspections. So what has to occur now is when you are doing significant works over 5,000, you are supposed to get what's known as declared designs done by a designer. Then the builder who completes the work must ensure that the work is done in accordance with those designs. Okay. And if they're not, everyone in that supply chain can be held responsible if they're not done properly.
Where we go,
that answers your question, Sarah. Very interesting indeed. Thank you very much for that. Let's go to Adam from Janelli in Sydney. Hi, Adam. Good afternoon.
G'day, boys. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. What's your query for Stephen, mate?
Oh, mate, my young bloke is finishing up his HSC this year, and he's a bit not sure what he wants to do, and I'd be interested to see what Stephen thinks about, a young boy entering the strata world, and what's it like, and what would he expect to do as an entry sort of level role?
No, great question. Thanks, Adam. So it's something, because the government is on the lookout, they realise that Strata is going to do the heavy lifting as far as the residential property sector is concerned. And we've mentioned many times on the show that it's expected by 2040 that around 50% of New South Wales are going to be living in a strata or community tile environment. So it's very much an expanding sector. And at the moment, one of the problems that we acknowledge at Strata Community Association, and the government also recognises, is the fact that we're building properties, which is great, but we're not necessarily, educating or advertising for careers in strata, building management, property management, and those areas which are really going to support the sector over the next couple of decades.
Would this be TAFE? Would it be a university course, construction?
No, I'd actually encourage Adam's young fella to give us a call at Strata Community Association, 9492 8200. And we will be able to get them onto the right track. But yes, to your point, Muzz, yes, it is. It's a TAFE course. You get what's called a certificate of registration. Yep. And then from there, you'll go on to a licensing course, which is a 4-year program to do that. Yep. And once you've got your Strata license, you can then operate as a practitioner and open up your own firm, and away you go.
Wow.
But again, it's an emerging industry, and it's one that in the sector, we call it the sleeping giant of property, because it's been sitting there for a long time, and it's now about to boom over the next couple of decades.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I would encourage anyone out there, if you do have, like Adam, a couple of young folk that are looking for a career, Strata is a great one.
Good way to go, and it's just about to explode on the up and up.
Yeah, that's right.
Adam, I hope that helps you out. 131873 is our number if you want to have a chat to Stephen. Jackie has called through. Hello, Jackie.
Hi, Stephen. I own an apartment which is rented, and I pay strata. And do I also require to have it insured?
Yeah, so Jackie, with the strata complex, yes, all owners corporations are required to carry building insurance. So your building structure is insured. However, what's not insured is the contents inside your own property. Okay, so what you will require if you want to protect it is your contents. So things like the carpet in your property, the paint on your walls, and obviously all of your internal furnishings and so forth. You'll need to protect all that, but everything else is covered by Strata.
How many people know that? How many people that currently live in Strata have got home insurance well as contents?
There would be a lot. Unfortunately, yeah, we often find investors, they get the wrong advice from their property managers, and they're doubling up on insurance.
Okay, so question for you. Say you're insured personally with home, right? And you're in a strata complex. Just say you've got a freestanding villa and you've got that insured with the NRMA, but the overall insurance of the complex is done by, say, GIO, and something goes pear-shaped. Do you get 2 payouts?
No. It'd be nice if you did.
Yeah, don't.
Do you get to pick which one you want?
No. It'd be the strata policy.
So the strata policy...
Yeah. There's actually been cases of that exact example. So again, I should clarify what I'm saying here. Only where, if you are in a duplex, which are detached, but it's a strata setup, you can actually have your own separate policy for that. But that's a very rare occurrence out there in strata land.
Because a lot of those over 50s complexes where they've got individual units and then they've got, other, individual homes, they could, if it wasn't covered by the strata, could they?
No, they couldn't. So it's if you got 3 lots or more, you must have a strata insurance policy.
Okay, 3 lots or more.
And there's actually been cases where we've seen self-managed schemes who have actually taken out a home policy on their strata complex, not a strata policy, and they are slightly different.
Okay, all right, Muzz, what do you got in front of you?
We've got...
waving a piece of paper around.
It's a text here. And how common is this? A building supervisor in our complex is a bully. Maintenance nearly non-existent. The pool gym area shut because of lack of maintenance. Regarding this strata complex, they regard it as their own personal fiefdom. We get no answers regarding building insurance to cover e-scooters, rubbish building up. Where do we go for help?
Great question.
This not uncommon either, right?
It's not uncommon. No, it's not. So again, I've mentioned this in previous weeks as well. If you're living in a strata environment and you're finding that either your strata committee or your strata manager or building manager aren't maintaining the property in the best interest of all owners, there are places you can go. So you can get what's called a compulsory appointment, and that's where you go to NCAT, which is the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal, and you can go there and apply for a compulsory appointment application, and that's where the administration of the property is taken out of the hands of the owners and placed into the hands of a professional strata manager, who will then manage the property and bring it back to where it should be.
Do you understand, I suppose? Well, of course you understand.
Yeah.
The people in their 70s and their 80s, they're fearful of taking that action when they're in a complex. And there might be half a dozen of them, and they all know that the wrong thing's being done, but they don't want to say anything about it. They don't want to cause any issues. They don't want to cause any dramas.
They're getting bullied, but they don't want to make a fuss.
Me, on the other hand, I want to go in there with a hand grenade, but they're fearful of it because of their age.
That's right.
And they put up with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
there's
that's
got to
where
be a lot of that going on.
There is, and there's an interesting change in the law coming where now fair trading can actually make these applications on behalf of...
good.
Yeah, so again, there is means afoot to try and change that.
All right, let's take a quick break. Stephen Brell is with us from Strata Community Association. You're with the Two Murrays on 2GB and 4BC. We'll be back right after this. Stephen Brell is with us from Strata Community Association. Alan has sent us a text. Let me just simplify the whole text. Basically wants to know, just to keep everybody on the level, what controls does the owner of a lot in a strata scheme actually have? Should you trust the committee or should you trust the strata manager?
You should trust them both, because there are provisions in place in the Act. And again, you were very diplomatic there, Muzz, not reading that. And after all, they are amenable to taking kickbacks. This is something which...
Oh, yeah, they are. Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, so this is something which we're very passionate about at Strata Community Association, is actually stamping out this practice. So there are two pieces of legislation that cover owners here. The first one is a Strata committee member must declare any conflicts of interest they may have if they are introducing a contractor, to do works at the property.
Yep.
And it's illegal for strata managers to take kickbacks from contractors. So I would encourage anyone out there, if they suspect that their strata manager is taking what I would call
brown paper bag
or a kickback,
Barley holiday,
an undisclosed commission, please give us a call at Strata Community Association 9492 8200, because that is a professional standard complaint, and we will kick them out of the association and refer them to fair trading, because that is a big no-no in what we do.
131873 is our telephone number. David joining us, I think, regarding a query in Brisbane. Hi, David. Good afternoon.
How are you, mate?
Sir, very well.
Calling from Narrabri, but we've got a property in Brisbane.
Right.
Stephen, I had a perfect example of what you were just talking about. It's a one bedder in a complex of 16, 2-storey, and the rear doors had to be replaced, fire doors, and we were quoted over $34,000 for 16 doors. And I thought that's a bit. This is a couple of years ago now. And I thought that's a bit ridiculous. I had a mate who had a builder from Moree up there doing some work on his house, and I rang the builder up and got him to drive by and just do a quote, and it came in at under $10,000.
What was the first quote?
$34,000 for 16 rear fire doors, rear doors on the units.
Wow.
That sounds extreme. Again, I'm not familiar with the law up in Queensland. However, in New South Wales, they've just passed a law to say that any works over 30,000, you must obtain at least 2 quotes. I would encourage all strata committees to do their due diligence and at least obtain 3 quotes for works, over that limit of, say, 5,000, because, again, then you know that you're not getting ripped off, and you can show your owners that you are exercising due diligence on your property. Okay, beautiful. Can I ask you a very quick question? If you want to get rid of your strata manager, how do you go about finding a new one? And I'm sure they're all out there. Can you guys give people advice on what should be on their resume or CV? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, strata managers will specialise in different types of property. So, strata's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. So there are managers that specialise in small, managers that specialise in large, new, commercial, industrial, all that sort of thing. Okay. If you go to the Strata Community Association website, you'll find a list of all of our members, and I would encourage all owners out there to only use a member of Strata Community Association, because we do have to go through ethical trading codes of conduct, and also we have the professional standards scheme as well, which we need to adhere to.
Can they ping you for unfair dismissal or insist on a 2-month?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So again,
you can't just say you're sacked. Don't bother coming next week.
No. So strata managers can only be appointed or dismissed at a general meeting. So
that's
all
right.
owners have to get together,
Right.
and they normally have a contract. Now, the maximum contract that can be signed for a strata manager is 3 years. And if you're in the first year of the life of your scheme, it's 1 year.
Yeah.
So that gives the owners a bit of an opportunity to suss out their manager and see if they're doing a good job.
Very interesting text, but we're going to go to Brisbane first because Cole's online. Hi, Cole. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you guys?
Well, sir, how can we help?
We own and live in a strata unit in Bundaberg, and we've been having a bit of problem with the strata management company, who've put this little bit in the clause of the contract, which us being old people don't tend to read a great deal of, which said that they're not responsible for organising any maintenance to the property whatsoever, and it's fallen back on the owners to go and find anything that needs fixing that is even that's common to the property. It's fallen back on the owners to go and find people to do the repairs, maintenance, whatever you like to call it.
Yep.
And we just sort of think, well, that's a bit right. What are we paying you guys for?
No, exactly right. So when you appoint a manager, there are two types of contracts that you can enter into. So one's called a full delegation, and that's where the manager does do everything on your behalf. And the other one is what's called a partial delegation. Now, what the idea is behind a partial is that owners can pick and choose what they want their manager to do. So by the sounds of it, in the case of your strata manager, they might be doing all the record keeping and the financial keeping for your building, but they're not organising the repairs and maintenance on your behalf.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
What does this mean from a net? For anyone thinking about buying a strata unit with a common wall, check to see if it's a solid wall. I found out the hard way. Was it just gyprock?
She might be referring to noise transfer there. So, yeah.
Oh, right. Imagine a gyprock wall between your place and mine. You'd drive us crazy with all the parties you have.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very good.
Here's another very interesting one. How often does this happen? Should an owner, in brackets, who is also a developer within the complex, i.e. he sells and builds within the complex, be on the strata committee?
It's a great question. They do have to declare their interest. So if they are what's called the original owner,
Yeah.
okay, so that's the developer of the property,
Yeah, and that's
they have to
something like
declare that they have an interest in the original owning firm, and they have to declare that to the owners, and then the owners can decide whether or not they elect them to the committee or not.
Okay. Now, if somebody cannot get to a meeting, like of all the owners, and they're on holidays, is there a process that they've got to follow to have somebody represent them at the meeting?
Yeah, there is. So in New South Wales, this is not quite the same. It is coming in up in Queensland. An owner can vote by proxy. So
Yep.
you can send someone along on your behalf, if you like, to vote at the meeting and speak on all the different matters. In New South Wales, we also have this thing called pre-meeting voting as well, which is that where you just submit your form prior to the meeting. And
Do you have to give them notification that you're going to be sending somebody in on your behalf, like in advance?
Yeah, you do. So if you're a large scheme, so a large scheme is defined as over 100 apartments, you need to give at least 24 hours notice before the meeting.
Yep.
Otherwise, if you're below 100 lots, you can just send your proxy in on the day of the meeting, and there they go.
We've got time for one more quick one, and Denise joining us from Brisbane. Hello, Denise. Don't want to press you, but the news is approaching. How can we help?
Okay. My daughter's in a block of 26 units, and they're 4 different types of dwellings. They all pay the same body corporate fee. In fact, she had to pay a special levy for a balcony balustrade on some of the units, but she does not have one.
Right, and the query is,
Right
should
or
she
wrong,
be... Yeah.
Stephen?
Yeah, that will come back to how the development has been set up originally. So often for older developments, it was a one-size-fits-all scenario where everyone was interlinked and you were paying for common things like that. Most modern apartments are being set up with different management structures in place, which may actually delineate between buildings and separate expenses and that sort of thing. So it all comes back to how the building was set up.
Okay, beautiful.
Yep.
All right. Hope that helps you out, mate. We've got to say goodbye to you. We can stay here all afternoon. Yep. Strata Community Association.
Yes.
Google that up. You'll be able to get some assistance. Your telephone number in case people want to ring you.
9492.
Yep.
8200.
Beautiful. Good to see you, and we'll catch up with you next Sunday.
Fantastic.